Hallo, herzlich willkommen. Heute Ja, hallo. Ist das Wort auf Englisch? Okay, bye. Hi, good morning. Today we make Sauerkraut. Part of making sauerkraut is learning to dispel myths. Many fear sauerkraut for its stench or its texture, likening it to some sort of bile that comes from the stomach of old Polish women or German kitchen maids. That's just not the case. Let's go inside and explore the nature of this fermented delicacy. So, crash course on sauerkraut. Sauerkraut comes from German sauer herb. Herb? Why herb? Well, at the end of the day, it's fermented cabbage. That's what sauerkraut is. You can mix carrots, turnips, beets, garlic, onion. But at the end of the day, it's fermented vegetables. Okay? So what is fermentation? As Sandor Katz would say, it's the transformative action of microorganisms. Now, that could be beer, yeast, right? Mushrooms, doing work on your cheese in the basement, or it could be the dead possum in your backyard getting, decomposed with flies and whatnot. Would you want to eat that? Probably not. So that brings us to the benefits of eating fermented foods. Why would you eat fermented foods? For one, they're probiotic. All right, you see this whole market of probiotic stuff coming up. Well, sauerkraut is really cheap to make, and very high in fiber, probably the highest you'll see, and of course probiotic. Nutrient availability or bioavailability of nutrients, something like carrots, chock full of nutrients, right? Well, when it's fermented, it's like to a new degree those nutrients are unleashed and ready for uptake into our body, make us strong. Finally, it's easy to digest. Okay, if you eat carbs and potato chips all day, your stomach's like, what the hell? If you eat sauerkraut, it's like, yes, keep it coming. Okay? So, now that we have basic understanding of what sauerkraut is, what fermentation is, and why we should do it and eat it, let's see how to make it. Now it's time to shred the vegetables. You're going to want your shredding instruments, the vegetables themselves, salt, and we'll see why later, a mixing bowl or vessel, and finally a fermentation vessel. Okay, and we'll look at the details later on all those things. But first, real quick, the way to cut cabbage, you know how to shred a carrot, right? To cut cabbage, you want to quarter it and then get that middle part out, okay? Because that's the roughest part of the cabbage. Doesn't taste good when it's fermented. So once you've done that, you want to cut this as thin as possible. And I'm going to proceed to use a food processor. This is just demonstration. To create surface area. Now all this little surface area will eventually be populated by microorganisms. And that's why we want it as small as possible. Okay, otherwise you could do big stuff for whatever texture you please, but it'll ferment better the smaller, more finely shredded it is. Little kraut break. In addition to all the other benefits of sauerkraut, it's a fantastic way to preserve food through the seasons. Right, you harvest all your cabbage at once. What are you going to do with it? I made this kraut 3 months ago. So I know at this point you're tired. You've shredded all your vegetables and put them in a bin together. But we have to keep going. Things are going to change pace now. What we do is we mix all the vegetables together and squeeze them. We break the cell walls. We make sure we break those cell walls even more than we have already so that liquid comes out. We put salt in. little by little, put salt in and keep tasting. And essentially what the salt does is it creates a brine in which only the bacteria that ferment the kraut will proliferate. And everything else, it'll be an anaerobic environment, really just where nothing else can grow. So the salt is important, and I couldn't tell you how much salt to do. I essentially just keep mixing. Don't put too much because you can't take salt out. But keep going until you get a faint taste of salt with the vegetables. Go ahead and taste it as you go. And you want it to be very juicy, a lot of liquid. We'll see why in a moment.
This is a journey.
So this is home stretch, and as you notice, I've already started to fill my vessel here with some of the kraut. You're going to want a glass vessel or a clay pot. Metal and plastic, be very wary because there's potential for the fermentation to leach out chemicals and get in your food. You don't want that. So pick glass or clay, and essentially as you go packing in the vegetables, right, you're going to want to see the juice rise. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. Essentially the liquid is coming up. You want all the vegetables to be submerged. So one last departing tip. My 10-liter crock here comes with weights that you place on top of the vegetables and keep them submerged. If you're doing it in a jar like this and it doesn't have a lid, one thing I've seen people do is they take one of the leaves and they'll, cut it out and kind of place it over to act as a barrier for whatever kind of debris might get in there. And so again, you're going to want to store these in a place where there's not much light, not too hot, not too cold, and just wait for it to ferment and enjoy. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope you consider making kraut yourself. Now I do this as part of a campaign for my upcoming year abroad in Germany. U.S. Congress and the Bundestag have accepted me into a fully funded program to study and work in Baden-Württemberg. That's the southern state, and I'll be in the southernmost point of the state on Lake Constance. Now I need your help. I have plans to hike the Alps, to go on kraut tours, to socialize and drink good German beer, let's be honest. And so to this end, I appreciate any donation you can muster. All local donations will be followed by a can of my kraut, and all others much appreciated. So, Dankeschön. Ich wünsche euch einen schönen Tag und ja.